Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I had to look at my calendar for a second and figure out what day it was. This is Coach Payal Mehta. I am a master certified professional coach, public speaking coach for people who just really don't want to, but they have to, and they want to be their most confident selves. I am your coach. And welcome to today's live. And I am very excited to talk about this experience that I went through because it reminded me of how much we need to do when we're preparing to do a live virtual meeting setting. And we know we've done so many of these. I certainly have, you have, but we're still doing them, right? We're never going to get away from doing these. And it is so important that we take our time with them, even if you're doing like 300 a week, it might feel like. But first, I wanted to share with you two offers that I'm very excited about. And one of them I've mentioned before, but the other one may have slipped under the radar. And I'm going to be talking more about it and putting more content out there. So if you are following me or you are following my business page, you're going to hear more information about it. Or if you're on my mailing list, I'm going to get around to that as well. The first is my public speaking workshop. So I have decided on a date. It is going to be July 19th, so next month. Planning to offer 2 times for this workshop. It's a 1-hour workshop, 7 a.m. Eastern time, New York time, and also 3 p.m. Eastern time. I'm hoping that gives, a little bit more flexibility in what time you can attend. It is going to be very, very low cost and very, very practical and hands-on. I know that we all get very consumed with all the things presentation related, slides, anxiety over how am I going to be perceived, and putting together the slide decks, especially, it bears repeating twice, I think. Not using filler words like I just did. I'm not going to talk about any of that. What I'm going to be talking about is the importance and how to manage and create connection with your audience and your audience with you, but also how to keep connected to yourself. And you're going to do that with your preparation. And part of that is your relaxation, which we talked about, I think, last week in the live. And so that's really what the focus is going to be. And like I said, 1 hour, very low cost. Be looking for that. If you want to know more, you can always message me. I'm happy to share more information about that. The second thing that I'm even more excited, and that's why my volume went up a little bit. Sorry about that, if that was too loud, is I'm planning to obtain my credential through the International Coaching Federation. This will be my first credential with them. There's different levels. And with that, I've completed all my training. And with that, there is also a supervisory element where a senior credentialed coach will actually mentor me. And part of that is listening in to my coaching sessions by way of a recording. They're not going to be coming to any of my coaching sessions, don't worry. And with that also requires me to coach a certain number of people within the next time frame. And that's sort of something I'm putting on myself to get done quickly. So I wanted, and I'm looking for people who are interested in coaching, who are willing to be recorded for purposes of sharing it with my mentor coach only. You are not going to end up on the internet, at least not from me, not from the recorded session. And I'm offering 6 weeks of coaching one-on-one with me for the very, very low cost of $20 US per session. That's $120 for 6 weeks of coaching, weekly, 30 minutes. It will be targeted, focused, and hopefully valuable. So if you or someone you know is interested in coaching, has never tried coaching, doesn't know what it is, but maybe wants to try it out, this is a great opportunity. I'm only going to do this till I fill all the spots I need. And I'll be offering it throughout the summer. So please look for that. And I'm really excited to offer that. So I look forward to hearing hopefully from you or anyone else. And of course, questions, bring them over. So I'm just going to check into the comments. Okay, great. So I want to share an experience that I had attending a virtual presentation. And if you read my post today, you saw some of the mistakes, we'll call them mistakes, or I'll call them maybe lack of preparation, things that unfortunately made me lose credibility, made me lose the perceived credibility that I had in the speaker. And that's something that I think is every person's fear that sometimes can hold us back. We're worried that if I put myself out there and I make an idiot of myself, or if I stumble, or if I don't know the answers, they're going to think I'm dumb. And then they'll never listen to anything I ever say, I say ever again. Now, I don't know if that's completely how I felt after this, but I certainly didn't have the best experience. And I know that it could have been better with just a few tweaks. So some of the things I mentioned that happened on this session is the speaker, they didn't seem to have a plan that was apparent to me. So I was having a hard time following them. Like, okay, where are they going to go next? Okay, what are they going to cover? What are they not going to cover? Do I need to ask a question here? This was a session in particular, just for some context, that was giving me new information, I thought, anyway, potentially. And they over-relied on sharing their screen. I love a screen share. Sometimes it is really important to get out of the slide deck and actually show someone something that is practical. Maybe it's a website that you need to show someone how to navigate. Maybe you use a video, and you stream a YouTube video through the meeting. But in this case, I think the presenter over-relied on their sharing of their screen. And the places that they were navigating to, it was clear that this was a website, a place that they were very familiar with. And it was also apparent that because they didn't have that plan, they were trying to remember, oh, where is that located? And so what was happening was they were clicking around. Now, of course, we all know when you're clicking around, I'm, as an audience person on the other side of the Zoom, I'm watching you clicking around, and my eyes are going around the screen like, what am I supposed to, okay, do I just not pay attention now? And are they ready now to share with me? Is this where I'm supposed to focus? Literally that disjointed is how I felt when I was watching this. And for me personally, I was somewhat familiar with the content. So I did sort of lean back in my chair and say, okay, I'm just going to let this person have their process. I think that if I want to keep it to that and open up for questions and comments, I think that was probably the most distracting thing that happened for me. In this particular situation, there were multiple presenters. I haven't seen a lot of Zoom calls, virtual calls lately where there are multiple presenters. So this was one of the few that I've seen where there's a handoff to another presenter. And I think that's great, because then all of the responsibility is not on you to deliver all of the content. That's a huge benefit. I will say, though, that as a tip, if you are on a call where there are multiple presenters, but you are the host, if you are the person who is leading the discussion, if you are passing the baton to the next speaker, if you are receiving the baton back, then it's not nap time. This is what I said in my post. It's not time for you to check out. You still need to be engaged with what that speaker is presenting. And in this particular situation, if I were to bring it back to the session that I attended, that I was sharing, what was happening was that the audio and the video was handed off, but the container, the what was being shared was not. So the host had control navigating slides, of sharing, screen sharing. They had control of that. The speaker did not. The speaker was very organized. They had their information. It was very, very clear to understand the speakers who came onto this call. I really appreciated that. Unfortunately, what I felt was a mistake was the distraction of the host. Either they maybe forgot that they were sharing their screen and they were preparing for the next item that they had to present when they got the baton returned back to them. And I saw them trying to follow along with the person who was speaking. So yeah, you have to coordinate. I think the easiest thing to do is pass the whole baton along. If you've got another speaker on the call, like if I had someone else here today and I could hand off to them and say, hey, what do you think? I would love to just say, hey, take it all. Take it all. And sometimes I know that when I was in the corporate environment and I was in a big meeting with a lot of people and there were multiple speakers, one of the risks there is you're concerned that that person won't stick to their allotted time and you have to manage the time. And we can talk about that in another session as well. Or unless this question comes up, I'll talk about it now. But there's ways you can manage that. But think about your audience. You're sitting back and you're having this entire experience, host, presenter, screen sharing, and you're trying to take all of that in. Me, I am somewhat of a visual learner, but maybe I'm more like a visual distractor. I don't know what the term would be. So I was getting distracted with what was happening on the screen. And if you remember from the last time we spoke, or last time I did this live, when you have a visual aid, you're splitting the attention of your audience. So in this scenario, we've got a virtual platform, we've got multiple speakers, we've got attendees, we've got the chat, we've got some screen sharing happening. And there's a lot going on. So I think what would have made this really magical for me was if there was an agenda, and it's possible I missed the agenda. I did come a few minutes late. If there was an agenda in advance, perhaps, so that I knew bullet points, this is what you can expect to hear on this call. This is what you can expect to learn, because my training and development background, we always want to provide learning objectives. Then when we got on the call, even if someone missed the intro in the beginning, bring your audience back, anchor them again to the agenda. Okay, we just covered this. Now we're going to go to this. It does not take that long to bring people back and say, here's where we're at. So if you're just joining right now, what I covered so far is I talked about 2 offerings that I'm going to offer, a public speaking workshop in July, and also a very, very low cost coaching offer. And I got into the experience I had attending a Zoom that wasn't as magical as it could have been. It doesn't take that long. It doesn't even have to be a slide. So that would have been extremely helpful for me as an attendee. And I'm very curious to hear what your experiences have been, what your challenges have been, because there's a lot. There's a lot out there. There's a lot to consider. And this was just one example of something I experienced recently. And I thought, that could have been better. That could have been so much better. And it was okay. It was okay. It wasn't the end of the world. But I went into it with expectations here, and they were, slightly lowered. And I think with just a few little tweaks, that could have been an amazing, amazing experience that would have left me feeling energized to go and learn more. But instead, for me personally, it left me feeling a little exhausted. Like, whew, okay, I'm glad that's over. I took away 1 or 2 points that were important for me, but could I go back and figure out all those different things that was being shown to me? Maybe 1 or 2, maybe not all of them. And maybe that was the point. Maybe it wasn't intended for me to absorb everything. I'm not really sure. So key takeaways, and I am going to stop here with my storytelling and see if there's any comments coming in from either Instagram, if you're listening to me on Instagram, or on LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, you can type in a comment and I will see it and I will address it live. If you are watching the replay, you can also post a comment and I can see it and I can respond later. So feel free, because I do these for others. I do these not because I have something incredible, some secret, but really just to start a conversation and hopefully to give you some ideas and inspiration. So that is all. And I do not see any comments right now. So I don't feel that I need to be here any longer than I need to be. So I will see you next week, and I have not yet decided on the topic. I sometimes like to have these come up based on conversations or experiences I'm having. If there's a topic you want me to talk about, or if there's someone you want me to talk with, let me know. I'm happy to hear it. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, and I will talk to you next week.